Hello, today we're going to talk about extreme service in your practice and how to jazz patients and clients with perfect service. Have you ever walked into a practice and the service was not what you expected? It didn't look the way it was supposed to look. For instance, when you go into a practice for the first time, although you may not have expectations of what it should look like because you don't have any idea, but it'll be violated quickly, your ideas, when you walk in if it's wrong. For instance, I've walked into practices that had very dirty carpeting, for the mud of the winter, but it's not kept clean and vacuumed. I've seen cluttery reception desks with piles of files and in baskets off to one side piled with files, literally signage like piece of paper stuck up on the front of the desk for patients when they're sitting down in the waiting room. They can read these wonderful signs like, if you bounce a check, we charge you $25. Those kind of messages and so on. The wallpaper is peeling a bit, or the paint is looking tired and old because it's been more than 5 years since it was painted. Or I've seen some that are like 20 years since they're painted. Forget it. And they look like it. And so there's many things that are your first impression when you walk in, and it is part of the service. Now replay that and go back further. Let's start with the real first impression, which is, say one of your patients refers a person to you, or they've heard about you somehow and they decide to phone in and ask how much you charge for blah blah, or are you taking new patients, etc., etc. Now that is definitely part of the first impression, how that's handled. Most staff try for good things, but honestly lose 2 to 5 shoppers every single week. It's a statistic that was done by many different studies and found to be true. 2 to 5 per receptionist per week. So how does that happen? And we want to have a look at that. They take the incoming call and the person says, how much is it for the initial exam or the first treatment or whatever, and the staff tend to quote a price or give a ballpark figure, and then they say, would you like an appointment? And those are actually the 2 things you never ever do when somebody's phoning in as a potential new patient. Shoppers are easy to handle when you have all of the tools. I have a whole nother video on that. You can go and find it, Handling Shoppers, or some such title, and it'll give you the exact ways to handle that. But that is part of the first impression. And rolling back before that, guess what's even before that? Their friend, or however they heard about you, they found out the name of your practice or your name as the doctor. And so what they do is they go online and they Google you. Everybody does this. I would never go and see somebody that I hadn't Googled first, that I knew something about, and whether I like their philosophy or the pictures of them. I tend to like websites that have pictures and not long diatribes about how many degrees somebody has and how many awards they won. I really don't care. Are they a healthcare professional? Do they get good results? I then want to Google your reviews and see, what do people think about you? So these are the 2 things I'm going to do. So if you have a really bad website that is malfunctioning and it's not beautiful and up to date and current looking, this is going to turn a certain number of people off. And then if your Google reviews are more bad than good, or we say 1 bad one for every 13 good ones is a good proportion. Not saying you have to have bad ones. I'm just saying, if you do, don't freak out. There are people out there who are just nonsensical and will post things, and angry people tend to be the kind of people that put something up there. So you want to encourage your good patients that you love to help you out and do some good reviews. So those are the things that are your first impression before they even get to phoning in to make an appointment. So your website and your Google reviews need to be top-notch. Then the person who's answering the phone has to be top-notch. Then when they walk into the practice, they have to see all the right things, not those signs on the front of the desk and piles of files and all that sort of thing. So you want to look at everything from way outside your practice in, right? Because extreme service doesn't mean so-so service. When people pay you for something, they expect perfect service. They don't expect to have it be so-so looking, or they're told to go sit over there, or they're on the phone and they're put on, can you hold, and they're put on phone and they wait for, few minutes till you come back again. That's just bad service. It's not how you answer phones, and it's not how you put people on hold. I have another video that I did called Phone Etiquette 101, and I think I did 102 as well. Because there's a lot of things that can go wrong on the front desk on that phone answering alone that makes it be normal to bad service. So we're aiming upwards. We want to look at all the different things that you can do to make your service be extreme. So, being ignored. I've walked into a practice where I was ignored. I just kind of stood there and waited for them to notice me. It was actually a test. I wanted to see how long it would take. They didn't know me. I was dropping in. They didn't know I wasn't a shopper looking for a new practice or anything. They just ignored me because they were talking on the phone, and one of them was working away at something at her desk, which wasn't even a phone call, and she just didn't even look up. And I wasn't quiet. So now that receptionist and how they are looking, chewing gum, never hair pulled up in a bun and gone like this so it looks all pokey outy and messy. It looks very unprofessional. It's good for after hours to look however you want to look, but at work you want to look well groomed, makeup perfect, like makeup on and perfect, clothing not wrinkled, ideally, uniforms, not scrubs, but uniforms with a name tag. And they have to have not been thrown in the corner of the room last night and put on again this morning all wrinkled. Things like that. These are actually part of the extreme service, believe it or not. You don't want to make patients feel unintelligent or small by the way you treat them verbally and answer their questions. Well, everybody knows that. And the person didn't, having rudeness. One of my new clients had a staff member be very rude to a patient who was phoning, or client who was phoning. I think it's a vet practice. And she was very rude to the person because she didn't like her. And that person has got a pet that needs a lot of care, and it's a very good, she's a very good client of the practice overall. And this staff member and her don't click, and so she's rude to her. Not acceptable. High level manners for every person who walks in the door. Okay, you are not there to have personal opinions about people. You're there to treat them, or their animals in the case of veterinarians. Okay, good. So you want to deliver your service on time. That's another extreme service point. When you run behind and people are sitting there wishing they could get back to work, or they're thinking about they have to go pick up their kids after school, or any of these different issues, you actually are not delivering perfect service. So this includes politeness and caring about the person and being interested in them and so on. So there's a lot of different parts on that first impression when they come into the practice and they're about to get their treatment. Extreme services, as you are probably starting to see, it's 100 little things all added together, having been done well and extremely above normal expectancy. So it's a very good idea to have a staff meeting with your team and have them discuss a very interesting thing. When they have gone to other practices as a patient, their dentist, their chiropractor, their optometrist, their veterinarian, and so on, and MDs, can include them in there. So when they have done that, what is their impression of the practice? What would they change about it? What do they think could be done better? Or did they find something that was so impressive that they'd like to see it done in your practice? This is a very interesting meeting. I mean, you can include yourself in it because you do go to your own healthcare professionals as a person. And so all of you share this information, what you didn't like, what you did like. You could even have it be where you say, okay, over the next month, if any of you go to a doctor's office, notice these things, all right? Look at their website before you go. Pretend you're a new patient. Phone in to make an appointment. See how you're dealt with, what kind of manners they had. Are they upbeat, or they go, oh gosh, let's see what we can find here. No, I can't get you in today. You never say that. Never. There's other ways of saying it. Well, let me see what the soonest I can get you in for. Are you better for mornings or afternoons? I know you wanted today. Unfortunately, it is all blocked up, but I have something tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and I'd love to get you in really soon. Does that work for you? I mean, there's so many better ways to say it. Another thing that you can have, and believe it or not, this isn't even part of your service precisely, but having extreme decor that is really remarkable, that you've not even spent a lot of money on, but a great color scheme. Have an interior designer come in and pick colors and things that are really intensely striking. I'm not saying all of your walls have to be blue and green vibrating against each other. I'm not talking about that. But I do have a client who has this fabulous wallpaper that he found online, and each of the rooms have one wall with the wallpaper, and it's 3 different colors and styles. And so I would ask for the green room. Somebody else might ask for the purple room, and somebody else might ask for the turquoise room. These are his patients go out telling people, you have to go to his practice. It's unbelievable. He has some other very unusual, awesome characteristics that make his practice be set aside from others. But this is very important as well, because it is part of the extreme service, that they feel like they've walked into an awesome practice that is doing well. And another thing that always hits me is the artwork on the walls. People tend to neglect that. And there's several solutions for that. There are art galleries who will put art on your wall on consignment, and you can have a little, sticker thing in the corner of the art. They put a little piece of cardboard in and stick it in the frame saying the price and to contact such and such a gallery. That's okay. It's fun because you get that change once a month. They'll come in and give you some new artwork and take away the old ones. And so when people are coming in every so often, they see different looks. You could also have your staff, maybe people who take great photos, and you can have those blowing up and change them in the frames every month or two. Put in a new one, or change rooms that they're in. That's another one I've seen done. Go on Wayfair online. They have spectacular prints of paintings on canvas that are, not real painting, but they're done on canvas as if they were. And some of them are extremely striking, and you want to set an upbeat mood, not sort of a drizzly, rainy day with fog. I have a great picture that my husband took, and if you want to bring somebody down a little bit and feel very, very, very relaxed, that's a great picture. But instead, you want to have some good colors, and they're like $50 to $100. I think you can pay a lot more if you want a really high-end one, but honestly, the ones for $50, I'm actually going to buy a few when we ever get back in our office. We're on lockdown right now. But, don't despair that things are super expensive in order to decorate an office. Again, if you're not confident on how to do it and none of your staff are, then get an interior designer to come in for $250, maybe $500 to give her thoughts on what you could change up. You can go and do it, but she can give you the design. Okay, so now service the patients, extreme service. I'll tell you an example at a dental office. When I go to my dentist at the end of my appointment, they give me a mirror and I look at it, and they give me a nice hot face cloth for me to wipe my face and my mouth and notice whether or not my lipstick got all smeared by the dentist going in my mouth. Because one time I went out of the office with lipstick smeared and paste from the cleaning dotting my face, and nobody said a word. And another practice, the receptionist caught it. The assistant should have caught it, but she didn't, and they didn't have the mirror and the hot face cloth, so that's a negative. And but then the receptionist did mention it to me before I walked out the door, which was thankful, so I wasn't embarrassed after walking down the street and then getting home and seeing what my face looked like. Okay, these are things to think about. I know when I go to my chiropractor, I want to have everything tucked back in and looking straight, and that I didn't smear my eye makeup being face down on the table. I usually do, and my lipstick is usually smeared as well. So these are things that part of the service, like here's the detail that makes a so-so practice or an awesome practice. So if you want to be in the extreme service level, you need to have all these little details just right, because patients really notice these things, and you think, well, they won't. They do. So involve your team and do that meeting that I was suggesting, and have a look at what everybody thinks about other practices they've been to. I think that's the most fun idea I've had in a long time, is critiquing everybody else's practice, but from the good and the bad. Because if you saw something really good or something special happen, you want to discuss that with the team as well, especially. Okay? So there's a bunch of ideas on how to do extreme service in your practice. You already know how to do the technical part. You got trained on that. It's not that part. The patient actually doesn't know if you're doing really good service. Could somebody else do it better? I personally have been to lots of my clients over the years, and everyone's different, but I have no idea if they're perfect at what they're doing. But I do know all the other aspects, the soft side of it all, not the technical side, okay? So have fun with it. Thanks, and thanks for listening today. And if you want a free practice analysis, I love doing those. I've done 6,000 of them, and I've met people one-on-one to discuss their practice, and we find all the areas where a practice could be improved, and I will then say what we could do about it, and then we get to know, decide whether or not we're a match for each other. Okay? So give me a call, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have playlists, so you can go through the lists and see on different topics, things that might be of interest to you. Give me a like and share this with your friends. Thank you very much. Bye for now.
To get your practice analyzed, contact the Art of Management at 416-466-6217.